Say that louder.
Trust our city staff, I can't imagine that they may not like it, but, yeah, I mean, there's.
Well, I mean, they can't do anything about the dispensaries, I mean, it's those are legal, but the smoke shops.
Soliciting and selling it. I mean, just in case something happened.
We're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the December version of the Public Health and Safety Commission. I think we're recording. Let's go ahead and commit the roll call.
Commissioner Andrade is not here. Vice Chair Dominguez?
Here.
Chair Morton?
Present.
Commissioner Sales?
Here.
Commissioner Taylor is not here. Commissioner Bond?
Present.
Perfect. The record will show that all members of the Public Health and Safety Commission are present with the exception of Commissioner Andrade and Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move. If everyone will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not aware of any special presentations or proclamations, which will move us to oral communications.
And Chair Morton, we do have one speaker, and it's Peggy Walker.
Okay. Hi.
Good afternoon. I'm Peggy Walker. I'm with San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth. We've been around the community, serving the San Diego area for about 30 years now. Our mission to keep kids alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other drug-free. So I came on an information mission today. You have probably heard this, but I wanted to alert you to the growing problem of intoxicating illegal products that are being sold outside of the permitted marijuana process. They're being sold in gas stations, smoke shops, and convenience stores all over in this city and all over the county. And the problem has gotten so bad that we were invited to a sheriff's community partners meeting a couple of weeks ago. It was December 3rd. I was talking to the captain about it, and they wanted to call our attention to the wide variety of mislabeled products that are out there. Some of these you can find at smoke shops here in Encinitas. There's one near San Diego Academy that's problematic. But I wanted for you to see pictures of what these look like. They're candy, snacks, beverages, They're infused with Delta 8 or 9 THC, which is a hemp-derived product. Some are marijuana THC, some have psilocin or psilocin from mushrooms. Some say they have mushroom blends. You can find a wide variety of contents on the labels, but the sheriff's message was, do not trust these labels. These are mislabeled. Whatever it says may or may not be in the product. But when they were tested by the sheriff, 60% of the products contained a controlled substance of some kind, meaning they're intoxicating and they're illegal. And they're being sold to juveniles. Often they're sold without age checks. So the sheriff's message to us was to get the word out in the community. And the biggest warning is buyer beware. Do not trust the labels. One of the products that is being sold is Kratom, and I think you've heard of Kratom. I think I discussed it here once before. And on the back of one of these sheets, you'll find there's a press release. Solana Beach just passed an ordinance that bans the sale of Kratom to minors. It is banned completely. All sales are banned in the city of San Diego and the city of Oceanside. But it's something that I think Mayor-elect Bruce Ellers is interested. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your attendance.
That concludes oral communications for today.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes that we need to be made to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda, and no item has been removed by members of the public.
Excellent. Let's go. I'll call for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I'll need a second. Thank you. Did you get that from Robin? Thanks.
You can go ahead and vote now. Motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Andrade and Commissioner Taylor absent.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending, both Chief and Captain, today. We'll start public safety reports. Captain Shane Watts.
Well, thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to do a brief overview of where we are with stats up until November, mid-November. The Sheriff's Office actually transitioned to a new report writing software system. And because of that, we do not have access to be able to pull those stats forward at this time. We're hoping to have those tools built for the beginning of the year. So these stats will be reflective up until mid-November. And then just a brief overview of the capabilities and the contract for the Sheriff's Office. You have the one captain, myself, 2 lieutenants, and then 26 contract city positions for your patrol deputies that are working the shifts at night and during the day. We have 5 contract cars for traffic, and then we also have the 4 motors as well. Detectives, we have 6 contract detectives, and then our cops, with the additional 2, we now have 6 total cops deputies. 4 are assigned to the homeless outreach team. And then we have the 3.5 CSOs that are contracted for the city that help us with our parking enforcement and also take reports for us. Oops. Oh boy. And then for our focuses of 2024 through 2025, when I took over in April, one of my focuses was the deputy-initiated activity to increase our presence out in our community, increase what they're doing out in our community on a proactive level so that we could, for one, be out in the community, 2, we could address those issues on a proactive basis as things came up. We also, the e-bike education and enforcement was another priority for us here in the city. Our homeless outreach remains another big focus for us. And then community engagement, that was something that I personally was focused on, getting out, engaging with our community, being present, and being an ear so that they could voice what was going on out in the community. Oh, thank you. So looking at our crime stats through mid-November, over the summer months, our assault offenses did go up. Year to date, we are up 56 actual incidents. However, a lot of those were due to the heavy populated beaches that we had during the summer, which flowed into our nightlife. But we did address that with having more of a presence in our downtown area during those busy nights, Friday, Saturday nights, which the results of that did show a decline in those assaults. Also, arson was up significantly. We did have a serial arsonist that was committing those crimes between our northern border of Carlsbad. So Carlsbad was also affected by this. With some surveillance and some cross-agency cooperation, we were actually able to apprehend the subject, and they are still in custody. And since then, we have had no more suspicious fires. And then next slide. And then when we are looking at our deputy-initiated activity, as you can see, the top graph is going to show the 2023 activity throughout the year, and then in red, it shows what we did starting in April. So you can see that in April, we identified that we needed to get out in the community, be more proactive, make more contacts. And this doesn't just reflect us making more arrests necessarily or more citations. It's us just being proactive in the community, doing those extra patrols, getting out of our vehicles and walking around the parks, contacting individuals. It does reflect traffic stops, but that doesn't mean that a citation necessarily was issued. So in April, we identified this as one of our priorities, and throughout the year, you can see that we have increased the activity. I think this is the expectation from our community. This is definitely my expectation. We've more than doubled what we were doing last year, and we will continue to move forward with that. I think it's important that the community knows that we're out there, that we're being seen, and that we're engaged with them. Another priority was our traffic unit citations within the traffic division. In April, a total of 393 citations were written, and that's from our motor deputies and our traffic cars, which primarily is to enforce those speed laws, those traffic violations. I felt that that was low. I felt like we had streets that needed more enforcement with the speeds. So with encouragement and getting those proactive activity to rise in that division, you can see that we were starting to go up. In May, June, and July, we were up to 611, which was quite an increase from 393 in April. We did see a decrease in August. However, we associate that with the speed reduction that occurred in the city, so we were in a warning phase for that. And then coming out of that warning phase, we went back up in September, and then October, we were at 687. So I also did a comparison to see where we ranked as far as jurisdictions nearby. So that included Oceanside, Carlsbad, Vista, Poway, San Marcos. And when I compared what our division was doing compared to those cities, we were double what they were doing. So a compliment to our division for getting out there and being proactive in their approach. And we will continue to do that. Field interviews are up 63% year to date, which is the field interview is when we get out of our vehicle and we actually talk to somebody, and then we document that conversation. And, and then one of the other important aspects of being out there, being in our, is that beat integrity, making sure that our cars are where they're supposed to be out in our community, which will improve our response times. Rather than them going back to the station and hanging out at the station or writing reports at the station, I want them out on the community. We can write reports, but they can write that on overtime if they need to or come in early. But I think it's important that our response times are appropriate, and that comes with staying out on the beat. Next slide, please. One of our focus for the office actually was coming up with education for e-bike safety. I think that there's a lot of parents, and I think we've discussed this before, I think that a lot of parents don't really understand the laws or the capabilities of what they're handing their children to go ride around on our roadways amongst vehicles. So our station, one of my lieutenants was tasked with coming up with these flyers that would act as an educational flyer for not only the juveniles and adults riders, but also as the parents who are going to be going out and making these purchases for their children. So we created these two flyers. They're in English and Spanish, but I think it's good to get this out to the community. We have been sending it out via social media and our platforms, and we've also reached out to the city to see if we can get the city to also send it out on behalf. Next slide. I think it's, yep. And then these are additional to flyers that also have education and then tells what the different classes are. So this was something that we proactively, we found that our office didn't have anything like this for the community. So we went ahead and put it together, had our sheriff's legal look at it, approve it, and now it's available throughout the sheriff's office. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback from parents when we have sent this out. A lot of them had no idea that there are laws and rules and restrictions on some of these bikes and age restrictions. So hopefully we'll continue to educate people and get these out. But the e-motorcycles are one of the big ones that we don't, I don't think we have enough education on. They are motorcycles. If a vehicle can go 50, 60 miles an hour on our roadways, they probably don't belong in the hands of somebody that's doesn't have a driver's license. And we see a lot of those out on the roadways, and we've been proactive in our approach as far as making those stops, taking those bikes away, and educating the parents. And then unhoused population, when we added our 2 additional COPS deputies earlier this year, that gave us the opportunity to have a 7-day coverage. So now weekend coverage where if we hear those calls for service come out, rather than patrol responding to those, I would rather have one of our homeless outreach team in coordination with the social worker from the city to be able to go out, because they know a majority of these individuals, they know what their needs are, and that individual is also comfortable dealing with a familiar face. So sometimes it just decreases any of the anxiety, and it just helps the call for service end in a positive note. So now we do have that 7-day-a-week coverage. We also adjusted our hours of the COPS team, and what that provided us is when we were proactively looking at, especially during the summer months, when we were having heavier attendance in the nighttime in our downtown area, that allowed us to have an actual physical presence where they were just downtown. And a lot of times just by us being present helps people make those right decisions. Maybe they don't get in their car, maybe they find an alternative way to get home. And that also carries over to the assaults out in the street that could occur. So we have continued to do that. One of our big nights is actually the night before Thanksgiving, is a heavily attended night in our downtown area. So we had not only our cops team, but we also had deputies on overtime that were working strictly downtown just to set our presence. Zero tolerance for criminal behavior. That was another transition that we went to. So intoxication, anything that would be a quality of life issue for our community. If they're breaking an ordinance, then we're going to go ahead and address that and make sure that that behavior is addressed. Our downtown walks, I know we spoke about this before, but every morning our cops, the early morning shift, they do a patrol of our downtown and our business districts to make sure that employees that are showing up to work are coming to a workplace free of being harassed, like maybe we saw in years past. That has been a welcomed service that we have provided by the business owners. And we also do that at night. Once a month, I actually go, and we go about 10 o'clock in the morning when the businesses are open, and we actually walk in and talk to the business owners, talk to the employees of every single business on the 101. So it can take about 3 hours, but that face-to-face communication has been great for engagement. It's been great to build those relationships with our business owners and the community. At first, I think there was a lot of people that saw, 6 of us walking down the street, but now they all wave, they kind of know what we're doing, and the business owners really appreciate it. And we can get those proactive responses. If we hear that something is happening, we're able to address it immediately. So it's been a great avenue for the business owners, and it's surely been productive for me to be in contact with those business owners. So we're going to continue to do that. And then also collaborating with our city attorney. I think there was a big part of if we were going to be addressing those quality of life issues through the municipal codes and the ordinance violations, we just wanted to make sure that the city attorney was going to be on board to go forward with those prosecutions. So that's been another positive for us. And what we've seen in this is obviously increased enforcement. Our outreach, as we discussed, the 7-day-a-week coverage, or 7 days, has been great. The weekends, it also frees up our patrol deputies who would be responding to those calls. Now that we have a cops team available on the weekends, it frees them up so they can be proactive in the community. And we've also seen a decrease in those calls for service since we've been on the proactive side of it. So that's been recognized. Slide. And then once again, community engagement. I think this is one of the most important things for me as the captain, is to be out there in our community, to be an ear to our community, but also address those concerns from the community. A lot of times, and I know I've said this before, a lot of times, law enforcement, we can be either a little reserved or the communication isn't always a two-way communication. So that's something that I've really been trying to improve upon out in our community so that they make sure that they know me, they know that they have an avenue if they want to come to the station, that I'm here to listen, and that we will address those concerns that they have. So these are some of the events that we've attended recently. I was actually invited to the Business Owner Association holiday party, and my wife and I did attend, and it was so great to be out there with the business owners, getting that one-on-one communication with them. It was a great evening, and it was nice to engage and hear the positive feedback. And then just ending on, here's some of our resources for the community. If anybody, the non-emergency line, but I have been noticing, I've had a few people say that, there can be a delay on that non-emergency line. If you feel like you need a deputy, then call 911. Let's get a deputy there. Don't worry about waiting on hold on the non-emergency line. Also, the My Encinitas app is another great resource. If it's an issue that can be addressed, then you could also fill that out. And that does go to me, and it goes to my station as well. And I think with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much for the very well-informed and great report. Thank you so much. I do know there are some questions. We do have the speaker button, so there we go.
Okay, I got that right?
Yep.
Thanks for the report. I have a couple of questions, if it's okay. First is, what do you think the minimum age should be for e-bikes? Because it looks to me like there are 8-year-olds riding e-bikes. I live close to the corner of Bulor and Melba Road, so every school goes by that corner.
Right.
And I mean, just getting out of my house, onto Melba, there were maybe 20 e-bikes came going really fast. It's really scary because I was trying to walk my dog across the street and I couldn't get in. And it seems to me, and I'm an e-bike rider, so I just want to say that, and I think it's a great way to get around. But I just don't, I mean, what do you think? Maybe just your own personal opinion from seeing what happens to kids and their recklessness. And so you have a thought on that?
I think that juvenile riders need the education, and I think working in collaboration with the school district so that we can get out there, which they have done and we have provided. But I think it's important that we express our concerns to our elected officials who can push forward some of the bills to reduce that age limit. And I know that there have been some that have been pushed forward and they've been amended a little bit, so we'll see what the final outcome is. But I think it's important that we do reach out to our elected officials.
Okay. Are some of those state laws? Or-
Yes, state laws.
How could the city, you're talking about elected officials at the state level then?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
not city officials?
Right.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, can I ask a more brief question?
You can.
Sorry. I wanted to ask you about, do you know the stats for MCRT in terms of here in Encinitas, how often the deputies are using the MCRT with people in crisis?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be a question that's for the social work. Stephen Gonzalez would have those exact numbers.
Okay, thank you, I'll give him a call. Okay, and then the last one, you said you were stepping up enforcement, and it looks like it's quite a bit with the new rules, the new speed limits and we all have to get used to those, right? But I was gonna ask you about the Blue Envelope program and also race and gender data. Do you have that specifically for Encinitas?
That's something that I could have our analyst pull. Yes, absolutely.
I would appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's it?
All right.
Okay. Commissioner Vaughn, we're following speakers on item number 8. And so we just have Commissioner Dominguez right in front of you. And so just when you select, you need to move down from the call to order at the top where you're selected. You just need to go down to 8. So that's why I'm calling on him next, and you might be thinking that I should be calling on you. Preemptive, it's a good. Please.
So the citations have gone up, and what about arrests?
Yeah, arrests are up too.
Are they?
Yep.
Okay. And then could you send us that or send maybe to Lois, and Lois could send it to us?
I will. Yeah, I'll talk with the city about that. Yeah.
Your presentation, the one you
Yeah,
just did?
yeah.
Very well done. Thank you, Captain.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just 2 questions. With the Supreme Court ruling on homelessness, encampments, et cetera, the city seems to have increased enforcement. I think you referred to that in your presentation. Does the city have a policy for notification before homeless residents would be separated from their belongings?
Yes, so we do issue before we would, like an encampment, we would issue 72-hour notice to give them time to clear their belongings.
Okay. And in general, how has the transition gone over the sort of new paradigm, I guess? From the Supreme Court ruling on the encampment and, you know, no longer needing to put people in an alternate housing before you can cite them kind of stuff.
Oh, so the Grants Pass decision? Yeah, so, you know, we're still, here in the city, we are still resources first. So really when you said that enforcement has increased, the enforcement has increased with our individuals that have refused multiple times the resources. But we are still on a resource first approach, and that will continue.
Okay. And then the other question is looking ahead into January with the new 5150 rules, what can we anticipate there?
Yeah, we're going to have to see how those, how we implement them on our side. But we will still, you know, when the ruling, I think it goes into effect January 1st, if I'm correct, I believe it does. But yeah, I mean, really on our end, it's not going to change much. We'll still be doing 5150 holds on those individuals that are a danger to themselves or others.
So I think the idea, right, is that people that are substance abuse or more temporary conditions are now, you know, instead of going to the drunk tank, could go to a CSU or whatever. I don't know exactly how that's working, but is there plans proactively to sort of change strategies?
Yeah, we will be able to take them on that 5150 hold. And also, we're hoping that through the courts, we'll be able to have some kind of, whether it's drug courts, but get them into a program to ultimately address the issue.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
So I think you all know I'm the chair of the Behavioral Health Advisory Board for the county. And we have a subcommittee, which is called the Justice Nexus Subcommittee. And in January, the fourth Monday in January, we are having a presentation on SB 43. So I can provide Lois with the link. Justin Lopez attends our meetings on a regular basis, but we'll also be having Lieutenant Stirk from the San Diego Police Department, and I can't remember the person from the Sheriff's Department who is the liaison, who has been attending the collaborative meetings. There's been collaborative meetings with 30 to 40 people since January of last year in preparation for the implementation of SB 43. So it's coming on in like 2 weeks, yikes. And, but we are going to have this roundtable discussion. I invite you all. It's going to be really interesting. And I'm glad that we're going to have law enforcement represented, because there's a lot of concern about what you brought up about people being brought in on a 5150 and then sobering up and not meeting the criteria for 5150s anymore and then being released. So this could become, you know, problematic for everybody. The hospitals, the emergency rooms, the CSUs, all those. So I just wanted to let everybody know. And Lois, is it okay if I provide you with the link, and people who want to come can, we'd love to have you. So it's on, the next one will be the fourth Monday in January, and it's from 3:30 to 5. And it's on Zoom, so it's easy. Thank you.
Thank you. My recollection, I want to just clarify. So there were lower traffic incidents related to, in like, it went down to 350 in that month, and you associated with that you were informing people that coming up there was more people around, hey, so there's more presence, and so people were driving slower. And then that presence went away, and then the traffic citations kind of went right back up. Was that kind of...
For the traffic citations,
Not the traffic citations, but it was the, could you go back to that
Yep.
slide? What was it? What was the graph above the traffic citations?
oh,
right
that was
there.
our deputy-initiated activity. So it'd be
No, it was the traffic unit citations, right. So in August, it went down to 317 because there were more people in the field explaining, hey, the speed limits are going to go down. There were more signs, not people, but signs, like notifications, so people were driving slower. that's kind of stopped. We actually lowered the speed limits, and then the citations went right back up.
So the decrease in August is associated to not necessarily people not breaking the speed limit,
Yeah.
but it's we were in a warning only phase. So we were still making traffic stops,
Got it.
but rather than issuing a citation, we were warning them due to the traffic reduction, the speed reduction.
And so we can assume that the lowering of the speed limit across the city has just raised the number of traffic citations because, I mean, I guess I'm more or less, that's not really an interesting question. I mean, my question would be just your opinion, like, are people driving slower? What's the effect of the lower? I mean, people happy with it, sad with it? Like some commentary just about how effective that may or may not be in lowering the speed limits around the city.
Yeah, I think ultimately slower speeds saves lives when we have collisions, whether it's with bike riders or vehicles. But I don't know if we can quantify the effects of that lower speed limit at this time. What I'm trying to reflect here isn't that we have more citations based on a lower speed limit. I'm showing that we're being more productive with our time, and we are out in the community, and we are enforcing those speed limits and the other traffic violations.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There's lots of discussion and around the sale of tobacco to our youth. I've gone into the tobacco shops and asked them what their practices are, and they card people before they come in, and they don't sell to minors. I know the city's concerned about it. Proactively, are we watching the sites, making sure that no illegal activity is taking place, and the effect of that, and you're following city council direction? Comment on that, if you would.
Yes, so we will continue to do our decoy operations where we have a minor go in and attempt to make a purchase under our control and supervision. So that's something that we will continue to do throughout the year,
Yeah.
just to make sure that those retail organizations are in compliance.
And I'm familiar with the tobacco shop that recently opened up around Santa Fe. What are the other tobacco shops that are of the concern for the community? Where are they located? I mean, is that too big of a list, or I imagine there's like 5 or 6 probably, but.
There's probably more than.
Yeah, are there really?
Yeah, that
Okay.
sell tobacco. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in all
But
of our.
I guess I'm thinking that one particular shop sort of stands out as it's you can't, obviously the gas stations and where they're available and stuff, but there's no really other store like that in Encinitas, is there? Full-on tobacco, well, I guess the liquor stores.
Yeah, liquor
Yeah.
store. I mean, you can buy
It
tobacco.
really is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
It really
the
is a lot.
retail market is
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's probably enough for that. Thank you for clarifying for me. I happen to attend the lumberyard on a regular basis in the morning. I'm having coffee. The police officers were following a general stereotype. There is a real attraction to the Broad Donut Shop right outside for the presents. So it was nice to see the rationale for why they were there, right, rather than the stereotype that might be in force with police
Right.
officers hanging around donut shops. So that's really good. And then I was really, I get visual of walking by the dispensaries. And right around Veterans Day, in the morning, in my mind, an egregious line of people out the door early in the morning. And just a wide variety of them. And it was nice to see the police present for that. And I asked what was going on because I was just strange. And it turns out they were just offering a promotion for, people, veterans as well, and free, and trying to serve the veterans in a way that supports them. And I really, a group that was assembled like that, in that way, could obviously, things could go awry. So it was nice to have the police presence there. They were, cautious and respectful and appropriate, and really helped put that into place. So I think that's a fantastic job. I'm seeing that working. And then just finally, just as a recommendation, as we go towards the 2025 work plan, is there a way that we can find out about these programs that you're going, because I think I'm going to be interested in just drafting language in our 2025 work plan that goes beyond just city-sponsored events, more city-sponsored events and programs that members of us might like to volunteer and participate with you as well. So we'll look for ways to make that happen.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Chief, Captain, ready?
Yeah.
There we go, Chief.
Well, I first want to start off by saying thank you for allowing us to present today. And I will kind of jump back to what you said a little earlier about the donut shop, or the dough company there. We love that too. It's not just the sheriffs. To break that stereotype just a little bit.
I was having coffee.
Yeah, coffee. That's what we go to is coffee. All right, so if you guys, I gave you a handout because it's a little bit small on the screen, but we have up the November statistics here, and then in December, the end, we'll have the full year review as well. So, but as we look through here, the percentages are very much in line with the year trend that we're seeing. So about 72 to 75% of all of our 911 calls are in the EMS frame, and then we have about 7% being fire, our hazardous materials in the 1% area, and then alarms being almost 9%, and then rescues just being under 1%. Our motor vehicle collisions are about 8%. Is that 6? Sorry, 6%. And then so we're seeing that trend is, continue throughout the year and into 2025. It's pretty much those are the numbers that we're looking at. If you look at page 2, we're breaking down the November with 56 alarms, 4 assists. We had 475 EMS calls. And as you go down, 16 other fires, 7 fires, 16, it says structure fires, but not all of those are a room and contents or full structure fire. It had a small fire or a trash can fire, dumpster fire. We had a couple cooking fires. So a little bit higher than normal in November, but if you think of Thanksgiving and all the cooking, that's definitely a trend that we see every November and December. So I'm sure the numbers will be pretty close to November that they will be in December. So, so total last month of 655 calls. And so you know me, I like to do trends. I like to look at our 36 months and see, what that roller coaster looks like as a graph, and it's pretty similar to what we've always been looking at. We are seeing a little uptick in our calls, but very minor at the moment. So really what I look for is, are we short resources? And we're not, right? So the resources we have are appropriate for the call volume that we're seeing and for the types of calls that we're seeing. It's a little bigger picture of that 36 months. Again, very good pattern. It looks the same all the way from 2021 of December till about December now. So also we like to look at the net aid exchange. And so what that means is, how many times is Encinitas Fire Department going into our neighboring jurisdictions, right? What we look at is, how often is Carlsbad or Ranch Santa Fe or Solana Beach, Del Mar coming into Encinitas and running calls, and how much are we going into those jurisdictions? And so when you look at the graph, really I like to look at the total. So the first one on table 6A says summary of aid exchange in November of 2024. The bottom will say the net aid is 26 minutes and 4 seconds. So that we basically gave that much time, and which is pretty good. It's pretty even. We've had it before where we've given a lot, and so it's kind of evened out over November. And then if you look at the summary of aid exchange in November, where we have a first unit on scene, we have 24 hours of units. So really, we provide or have provided a unit, and we're coming up with aid given 33 hours-ish, and then our aid received at 9 hours, and so that delta of 24 hours is how many times we help out neighboring agencies. A lot of those go into Carlsbad, where our Station 3 is located on Orpheus and Lacadia, and it's pretty much on the border there to La Costa. So we end up responding off 101 over by Pano, and then into one of their skilled nursing facilities over there off of La Costa, or off of Lacadia. Oop, my script one? Yep. And so another thing we look at is our turnout times. I think I've just explained what that is before. That is from when we get the 911 call at the fire station to when we hit responding. They have to get their turnouts on if it's a fire or any call that's requiring that type of PPE, or an EMS call is a little quicker out of the chute. So again, it's all dependent on what a captain does when he gets in the engine and how quick he can push that button, and if they're rolling when they push that button. So what I do is I look at these trends, and if I see a nice flat line like we're seeing now, no huge discrepancies, then I know we're doing a good job. It's when I start seeing these big dips that I worry about. So if you look at the travel times, graph 8, you see a couple big spikes there in 2022 of December, and then over in the 2023 was that September. And so those we looked at the time to make sure that we're not having any issues. And what happened is we had multiple calls in one area, one of our fire station's jurisdictions, which increases the call response time because it was a call where that engine that would normally respond was already on a call. So the response times were appropriate for the type of call that happened during that time. And that just happened a few times. And then our response times here, we're looking at about 6 minutes and 45 seconds, which again is very much underneath our response time standard of that 8 minutes. So, and then a total response time of 7 minutes and 21 seconds at night, and then 6 minutes, did I say 6? Sorry, 5 minutes, 57 seconds. During the day, and again, very nice flat lines. I think one of the things I want to mention here is we have very good response times compared to the county. Even with our transport times to the hospital, we just had a vehicle accident where we took 5 minutes to get there and then 17 minutes to transport all the way to Scripps La Jolla for a trauma patient. So it's, when you are a resident in Encinitas, you know that we're going to get there quick and you're going to get to a hospital pretty quick, which is our job, right? That's what we try to do. We call it the golden hour in trauma. We want them from scene to the hospital and surgery if needed under an hour. And so with our response times and our transport times, we're hitting that. For this page, if you look at our crawl processing times, that's how fast they dispatch a call from when they get the call. From someone calls 911, it can go to the sheriff's and get transferred back over to our dispatch, and then they triage the call and then get it to the right station, and then that's when the time stops for them. And the minute and 52, they're at 90th percentile. They're trying to get it under 2 minutes every time, so they're doing a good job too. So that, helps decrease our response time when 911 is called. So the faster they do their job, the quicker we get the information, and the faster we can get to the person's house or business or car collision. And so I think the turnout times are something that is really important for us. It's how fast we get out of the fire station. And there's been some questions asked, so I wanted to give a little bit more granular into it. So we get these turnout time reports every month. It gives on the left side is the month, and then on the right side is the year-to-date information. And when you look at the red, that means that they were out of compliance. So we want at 90th percentile. So we take a look at this. When you go across, you see patrol 236, and you come across and you see the first red number of 1:48, and you have total response numbers of 7, and 1 out of compliance gave us 85.7%. I'm not really worried about those 1 out of 7s, right? That can really mess up our numbers when it's such a small sample size. It's when you get to, let's go to a different page here. I have, 8 out of 33. That's when I'm having our battalion chiefs go talk to the station to find out what kind of calls that they were going to, were they in training before they responded. Those kind of things will slow our response times down, but we do really pay attention to these numbers so that we make sure our firefighters are getting out of the fire station as quick as possible. And we have an accountability system that we use to make sure that it's happening. And then you guys have all those numbers in your packet as well. And then so far for our annual training hours that we've had, we've done 4,478 hours of operations training, preventative maintenance of 1,175, fire prevention 875 hours. Our SCBA, or self-contained breathing apparatus, is what we wear and breathe the air when we go into a hazmat or structure fire. We did 871 hours of training with those. Our fire suppression, or us putting water on the fire, is 745 hours. Hose, so when I say hose, we're practicing our hose lays, so how we drag the hose, what strategy are we using to get to a second story, or around to the back of a home. You think it's simple to just pull the hose from A to B, but trying to limit the amount we're using. There's, pressure that builds up, pounds per square inch of water that needs to get there. So there's some math that goes along with our engineers when they're trying to figure out what kind of pressure to pump in the hose. So we do a lot of just dry hose runs to make sure that we're quick and we're efficient and we know what our numbers are supposed to be. A lot of ropes and knots. We're actually the second most technical rope rescues in the county, second to San Diego City. We obviously have a bluff lined cliff or bluff lined beach. So we have to do some rope rescues off the bluffs occasionally. And then our EMS education and simulations, we did over about 1,300 hours of that. So, obviously 70% of our calls are going to be EMS. So we do a lot of training on our EMS and simulations and make sure that we're up to date on all the new protocols and new technology that's out there. With that, I'll open up for any questions.
Excellent. Are there any questions?
Just curiosity where's your dispatch center?
Dispatch is in Rancho Santa Fe off of Fuerte. I think that's the name of the street. And it's in basically downtown Rancho Santa Fe, right there by the golf course, kind of.
And do they dispatch for other departments in the area?
All of North County.
Oh, okay.
So from Escondido, Paula, North County Fire Protection District, all the way down to us. So.
Commissioner Vaughn.
All right, just because I'm a data nerd. On page 6, in the summary of aid exchanged, why Del Mar? Table 6B.
Well, I mean, so Solana Beach has a one engine in a truck, and then Del Mar has one engine. So
I'm just asking, why was the imbalance so high for Del Mar?
I'm sorry.
It seems a strange place to be plus 15 hours.
You said on table 6B? Del Mar. Aid given, and then aid received. Yeah, so with them only being a one-engine fire department, anytime they go on a call, a second call happens, they always have to bring someone else in. So their number is always going to be high. For Solana Beach, it probably has a lot more. San Diego probably has a lot more hours in there, but for us, that's pretty much what we get about every month.
Very good. The other question, I guess, was for the motor vehicle responses. How much of that is I-5?
Not as much as you would think. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but we definitely have some occasional traffic and accidents or collisions on the 5 freeway, but it's nothing that would be this amazingly different number. I mean, it's not out of the ordinary on the number side. So, but I can get you that number for you.
Sure.
When you say the EMS training, that also include the lifeguards?
Correct, yeah. They're not in these hours. They have their own hours system that they're using. But they are, so when I became the fire chief, I included them in all of our EMS training as well. So they're here training with the firefighters, so.
Okay, thank you. Good report.
Thank you very much for your time. I think that moves us on to agenda item 9, which is our recommendations for the 2024 Health and Safety Commission Annual Work Plan. You can pull up the document on your screen, yep. And if you scroll down, we've prepared the background, and then under the analysis, we've listed the 5 recommendations from the October 28th meeting. We've listed the 3 recommendations for the November 18th, from the November 18th meeting, and then there is an addition that's here. So from me, so any other, before I explain mine, anybody else thinking about adding other things to the 2024 work plan, as far as recommendations from the plan?
So I had a thought when both Captain Watts and Captain Gordon were speaking about school shooter training and psychological preparation for the staff and children, and I would like to see that on the agenda it's part of the
Work plan for next year.
for next year.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss that next.
Okay.
Right, so this will
All
be,
my
this
comments.
will be recommendations that, just based on the information that we've gathered in the last year, to the thing.
Yeah, so I wrote some stuff up, and I think I've handed you all
Yeah.
a sheet. And, I mean, considering all the public input we've had concerning smoke shops and dispensaries and the like, and drug abuse amongst the youth, I think we need to have something in our work plan that addresses that issue, because, I mean, I don't know how many speakers we've had this year, but it seems like about 80% of them are talking about that.
Okay.
And so I put in some,
If I could just hold up, ask you a question. You're thinking about these as part of the 2025 work plan?
yes,
Okay, so right now, we're talking about the 2024 recommendations that we've made. So if you hold on for 1 second, we're just looking at this, and that's what I was asking for. So you're just a couple seconds ahead. Okay? Cool.
So James, I do have a couple little minor things. So the report that we wrote on the homelessness ad hoc committee, after my due date to get the report to Lois for the agenda for this meeting,
Yeah.
I got feedback from staff on 2 of the items. So I would like the version that we submit to the city council as our final report to reflect 2 slight changes to the report, which would be upgrading currently red items to yellow based on that last-minute staff
Great.
feedback.
Okay. Can we pull up that report so we can just kind of make that look clear and visible for what we're going to change?
Yep. So it's,
There we go.
yeah. So it's as we get into the color coding here, it's goal 1, action 4, which is currently red, and it's goal 3, action number 2, which is currently red.
And we want to change those to yellow.
Yes.
Okay. Lois, can you make those changes for us?
I'll make the changes and submit the
Okay. Is that the best way to do
reconciled
it?
version.
Okay. Sounds great.
I don't have the original document for it.
Excellent. And that was it? It's good? Yep. I thought I heard 2 changes. Is that the 2 changes?
Those are the 2 changes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Great.
the intention is that this will go on with the report, right?
I like
as
that.
our-
Absolutely. So I guess I had a senior moment. I seem to recall early in our commission that we kind of had a vote or a decision about how frequently we were going to meet, and we actually decided that we were going to meet quarterly. It turns out that we're actually mandated to meet quarterly already. So I was operating kind of when we last talked that we were just going to decide, oh, we're going to meet regularly now. Turns out that we need to make that a recommendation. We need to have the city code changed. And so I'm opting for a middle-of-the-road recommendation. And just, I think the justification is just, we've had so many special meetings, we might as well just get on the calendar for, regular meetings anyway, and we all want to meet. So I'm proposing that the recommendation is number 9, that we go from quarterly meetings to meeting, how did I word it? I want to meet it, 2 times in a quarter is how I wound up saying it. So how do you guys feel about that?
I'm comfortable going straight to once a month.
You'd like the recommendation to be meet every month?
Yeah, I think that puts us on par with most of the other commissions.
Feedback from others?
Well, I think that we need to be clear. I mean, we're going to be recruiting new people we have an opening, and, I was under the impression that it was quarterly. We've certainly been meeting way more than that. Whatever it is, that we stick to it and not have special meetings, because there's not enough time to prepare, like on short notice. Oh, you have to be here next Monday. I have other, I'm sure all of us are very busy people, including our law enforcement and fire people, to have meetings that are not scheduled and then say, oh, we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks. I don't-
Exactly.
But we
Exactly.
need to stick to it. I don't think we should go back and forth.
Okay. How do you feel about meeting every month?
I am not in favor of meeting every month.
Okay. Commissioner Dominguez, do you
I
have
don't have a problem with that.
meeting every month?
That's cool.
Okay. I would like to meet every month and make the recommendation be that we do meet every month. So if we can just go ahead and, well, that's what that will look for. When we said to the city council, we'll ask them if they'll allow us to meet every month. That way everybody will know what's on. And I believe the ad hocs or the meetings, it's 3 meetings. If you miss 3 meetings, your attendance or participation in the commission is not at jeopardy.
Consecutive.
Thank you very much. Good clarification. So with that being said, with that one minor change,
So just a reminder for the recommendation, it's just a recommendation to give to city council.
correct.
For consideration, city council would have to consider to change the Muni code, to change from quarterly to monthly meetings then.
Yep, and our recommendation is that it get changed to meeting monthly.
And just to reiterate kind of what Lois was getting at, you don't need to make a motion for that. It'll just be in the work plan and then presented to the city council at a later date.
Don't they have to finalize the
Yeah,
work plan,
I'm
though?
actually not, I'm not operating the way you just described it. I'm under different direction from Lois.
I think
If you want to
the,
formalize it in a motion, that's fine.
I think the idea here is that we're going to try to put the entire 2024 work plan by sort of discussion and consensus, and then a single vote on that final 2024
Well, these are recommendations from the 2024 work plan.
agreed.
Yeah.
But I think that what we've done over the last 2 or 3 meetings is to agree on the
Yes.
recommendations, but not actually have a formal vote. And so
Right.
I do think that as we wrap up today's meeting, we should probably have a formal vote on the
That's what
full
I'm,
slate of recommendations.
that's what I'm operating under, the assumption that we're going to vote on this.
That could be achieved in a single motion.
Excellent.
You guys are ready for that.
All right, I think we're ready. So we'll entertain the motion to accept this agenda, these recommendations as they're prepared.
Can we
As we
review the
discussed.
recommendations as prepared? I'm not 100% sure I see them.
So if they're listed under analysis,
Go up, yeah, so. It's a narrative, it's not in the.
and they're listed as 1 through 9, 1 through 9.
Okay,
And number 9 we've modified?
Correct.
And just to clarify before we vote, the first is Chair Morton and the second is Commissioner Vaughn. Is that?
Perfect.
Can you give us some time to review these?
Yep, take all the time you need. Yeah.
So while folks are reading, we did have the meeting with the homeless services team last Monday to review the draft report, and that was feedback from them had been incorporated, and it was the final 2 pieces that came in after the wire. But during that meeting, the Homeless Solutions staff did express support for our 3 recommendations and also provided some guidance on sort of best practices around all 3 items. I'm wondering if there's a way to support our submission to City Council with that staff insights into best practices, and how would that normally be done? Is that a staff report, Lois, or is that something that we would be doing as commission?
So once the commission finalizes the calendar year 2024 work plan, we would present it to City Council as an agenda report.
And so if we wanted to get Stephen Gonzalez's best practices stuff into that City Council agenda report, would that come from staff, or would the commission need to do something to make that happen?
I don't think his memo to you was part of your ad hoc report, so it wouldn't be included in that.
All right. Can we also, when we finalize the ad hoc report, add that as an attachment to the end of the ad hoc report and have it that way? Would that be the appropriate way to get that in?
I don't know what this memo is that Stephen provided, but I can check with Stephen to see what that memo is.
Okay. Yeah, I have a physical copy of it that he handed us. This is the document that we looked at during that meeting.
I didn't receive a copy.
Okay.
I mean, it may just be we prepped him for the response that he's going to get from the City Council, right?
Well, that's what I was trying to clarify with staff,
Yeah.
is whether they're going to put it in or whether we need to put it in.
Cool. So I think the takeaway is we're going to have communication with Lois on whether or not how I mean, basically the summary is like, how is the City Council going to hear, right, the Stephen's response, whether it comes through us or if it comes straight from him? Is that kind of the right thing? There's like the 2 pathways. Is that what we're talking about?
So what I'm trying to make sure is that when we have our final motion here and put together our 2024 tied up in a bow, that if that appendix needs to be part of what we're voting on to approve, that it's in the motion. That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay. Are we hamstrung then? To wait until we know we want to add that or not add that? Or if we go forward with it as it is right now?
I would say because it's written by staff, not by the ad hoc, I don't think it should be included as part of the ad hoc report.
Okay, perfect. So I think we'll move forward without it being part of the ad hoc report. You had enough time to read? Are we good? Any
Yeah,
questions?
I did have enough time to read.
Okay.
Did I hear you say, Commissioner Vaughn, you said that they did not agree with 6, 7, and 8?
No, they agreed and they provided supplemental information, which is sort of best practices for achieving those 3 recommendations.
Okay.
And so I was just trying to communicate those best practices that we heard from staff on up as we pass the recommendations along.
Okay, so they had no problem with those 3, 6, 7, and 8 as recommendations from our committee?
Yeah, no, they were very supportive of them.
Is discussion over? We ready to vote? Call the vote?
Motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Andrade and Commissioner Taylor absent.
Excellent. Nice work, guys. We did what we did. 1 year down. Were there any public comment here?
There are no more public speakers.
Okay, great. So with that, I think I'd like to turn the discussion into what we'd like the 2025 work plan to look like and some ideas about what we could add. And since you've already started.
Okay, again, there's just some ideas, and
Yeah.
I don't want to rehash what I already said, but I think we ought to identify these local private organizations and public entities that are dedicated to reducing drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and tobacco abuse amongst our youth. Maybe we can do that by inviting some speakers here, and for us to hear it and let the public hear maybe some ideas and solutions on how to make a positive impact on that. And then after we review all that, maybe have some recommendations for City Council at the end of 2025 that we could go forward with. Then the other thing I thought about was identifying some methods. I'm kind of struggling with this one, but we need to have some kind of more two-way communication with the public, because we come and have these meetings and maybe 3 or 4 people from the public are here, and I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how we might be able to get a two-way conversation with the public a better way than just saying, okay, I'm going to go to Dia de los Muertos, and I go there, I have my little, I don't know where to go or who to talk. I can talk to people, but there's no real structure. It just doesn't seem like it's very productive. So I think we need to brainstorm ways to, push forward a two-way conversation with members of the public, and also the City Council. I'm not sure. We talked about this before, Lois, and when I asked, does the City Council ever come and say, hey, you guys are doing a good job, you're on track, or this is what we'd like you to focus on, to understand a little more about that. So we could hear from them and then hear from the public. I think we could maybe come up with some recommendations that might be more on point. Then I asked the question, can our mayor, city council, city officials, emergency planning staff, fire department, sheriff's department, school people, can they all tell us that they're doing everything they can to make sure we have an appropriate response to what would be the unthinkable that happened today in Madison, Wisconsin, right? And, professionally, I know that the cases that you are prepared, right? And you do train that, and these are important things. It's a huge, issue in public safety, right? But I think it's important for the city to evaluate our preparedness. I think both the fire department and the sheriff's department would appreciate input from the city, and that we're able to communicate all the efforts you do to prepare, and everything you do to prepare for the possibility of it, to be able to communicate that to the public. So I would say that we need to identify the stakeholders and maybe get them in and speak at a commission meeting on this. So that was another thought I had. And then I'll go back to what was on the 2024 plan. And it was mentioned earlier about the Sheriff's Department producing and providing crime prevention videos targeting current public safety concerns and trying to get sheriff's department's already incredible footprint in social media to be able to be distributed to our own citizens and community. So there was, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4
I want to
considerations.
thank you for prompting me for the social media presence. And I just kind of like learned with Lois, like the process. So in our dream situation, the desired situation, both of these documents are going to be presented to city council at the same time. So it's absolutely like the right thing to do, since it's like a recommendation in the 2024 and we'd like to have it in 2025. Like, it's certainly appropriate to like put that in the work plan, for our proposed work plan for 2025. And since both things are going at the same time, they'll be able to sort of like parse if it's going to go forward or not go forward. So that's like a great thing of following through that I got to understand. Any thoughts from anybody about? Go ahead, Commissioner Sales, you first.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with what you said, and so I don't have a partner for the mental health, wellness, substance abuse ad hoc anymore. So if you'd like to work with me on that, I mean, I don't know if we have time to work on it today, because you're saying that this 2025 recommendations have to go today as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I misunderstood you.
No, we're gonna have a draft, hopefully today, and then we're gonna need to vote in January at a special meeting for the fast to go fast.
And
to
I'd
actually
be happy
finalize
to
it.
do that, and I really think it's, holistically, you have to look at these situations. If we were to have a situation like that here, what do we do to prepare for it? What do we do with the response? But there's an aftermath, right?
Right, exactly. That's
And there's
what I-
actually a whole precursor to it in terms of identifying potential issues that might result in, some sort of violence in the school, right?
And the
Right.
school districts are well aware of that. mean,
I understand
They
that.
probably- They have very, I'm sure,
Right.
detailed plans that they work out with the sheriff's department and the fire department for support. But I agree with you, we do need to look at that and know what's going on. I'm not aware of what the plan is, but I'm sure that our law enforcement and fire safety people do know what the plan is, because they're involved in it. They probably train the school district.
Yes, and we have an emergency planner here as well, don't we, Lois?
Yes, we have an emergency manager.
Right, so, those would be resources to,
Yeah,
to
but I was
draw
thinking
upon
that,
them.
from what you said before about the responding to the folks who come every month from the San Diego Alliance. I don't think we should wait a year or two to work on this and report back to the city council. These are our recommendations. These things are happening. These folks have been coming for quite a few, almost from the beginning of our commission, and talking about this issue. So I don't think we want to waste time and say, we're going to wait a whole year to send it to the city council. So
Well, we're
a reason to do that.
as we did, we're at liberty to make a recommendation
Right,
if we, at any time and as we go. And I would just, if we have a specific issue, which I think is awesome, I would recommend us go beyond the ad hoc group, right? Like we asked specifically, and perhaps I did some investigation with other plans. I think what often, I was thinking in the guise of this, it's a different issue, but we could do the same. So like leverage, I was thinking of making this recommendation, and I'll explain how it means. So leverage participation in Live Well San Diego and our experience with the Behavioral Health Advisory Board conversations to make recommendations that can directly affect the public health and safety of the community in Encinitas. So in that sense, what we're doing is identifying our expertise, and we're asking the city council for like permission to listen to us with our that. So if we're talking about gun violence, maybe shaping it, like leverage our participation in, I'm familiar with the organization called San Diego's for Stopping Gun Violence, right? Right, and so, or any other group that we might name, and we could spend some time identifying what group, right, in, aiding conversation, recommendations we can make to, I don't know what the wording is, but to, it's not investigate schools, but make recommendations around the city's school shooting plan or something like that, right? So I guess that's the broad point of me is like, I think if we have an issue and we can be clear with it, we can avoid going through the ad hoc group, right?
I think that's fine. I think speaking to the emergency manager would be a good first step to see what's in place, so we're not recreating the wheel. You're reinventing the wheel, because there's a
Right.
lot of things in place that I'm not aware of,
And we
so
can.
that would be a first step, I think.
And that I think will have a carryover for action item, which is invite speakers from different organizations on what service they provide and speak in a commission's meeting, right? So we'll probably carry on that number 5 recommendation in the 2025 work plan. Commissioner Vaughn?
Yeah, just specifically with regards to the two-way communication from Vice Chair Dominguez. You had also, Chair, sort of spoken to it during the public safety updates. But I think that when police, fire, or I would also add the homeless services team are going out to do community outreach, I think, and I'd like to hear from the captain and the chief, but I think it would be probably pretty powerful for us as commissioners to participate in those community outreach activities that they're doing, probably no more than 3 of us at a time to avoid any Brown Act issues. But, take turns, rotate. The Sheriff's Department on Wednesday mornings partners with the Hope team for their walkabout in downtown. That's an event that I think would be pretty powerful for us to sort of rotate into and participate in from time to time. So as we sort of update the community outreach conversations and trying not to reinvent the wheel, partner with the existing activities that fire, law, and I would say homeless services are already doing.
Right, and to that guidance, turning to some of the other commissions and what they do, we became hamstrung because we used language like attending city events, right? And so those are very limited. So language along the line, serve as ambassadors or volunteers at city events/programs is sort of language that would allow a bit more flexibility. Right?
I'm specifically proposing that we support the law, fire, and homeless services community outreach efforts.
Love it. Yep. I think granularity is good. So support. You keeping up, Lois?
I was
I
wondering.
want to go slow, so you are keeping up.
Well, did you want to look at the current 2024 work plan and then remove from the 2024 work plan and then add on, or?
Oh, that's too organized. We're just
No?
doing the
Okay.
shotgun. Everyone's talking about what they want to do,
Okay.
right? And then we'll go through that. We got a few moments, but I think so. If we could just get that one right. This takes some time. So commissioners serve as volunteers at city events and programs that support
The commission supports
the commission.
community outreach activities
Yep.
by fire, law enforcement, and homeless services.
As volunteers or ambassadors is some language, so like
In an
supports
effort.
those. I think what we're looking for is like language that gets us like participating and at them. So I think something better than support, maybe.
I would just say in an effort to participate in a two-way conversation
Okay.
with the public on issues related to public safety. And I think adding that piece to it in terms of,
But participate and support.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you read back what you got, Lois?
Serve as volunteers at city events and programs to participate and support community outreach activities by fire, law enforcement, and homeless services.
We want language that talks about that in an effort to increase two-way participation between the commission and the community. Right?
I think that the commission wants to be involved from a two-way dialogue communication perspective, but I think that the existing work that the city departments are already doing, we don't want to be separate from that. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? If Captain Watts is doing a homeless meeting in Cardiff and stuff, let's get homeless services staff and a couple of us out there with them so that, you know, we're working together, showing a unified front and hearing slightly different messages from what the community's providing, so that we can work behind the scenes together to, you know, meet the expectations of the community.
I think we're doing good, and I think we're going to be able to parse this down into a succinct recommendation that they can approve, but let's keep kind of working it along, Lois. Where are you at now with the language?
I think,
Would
I
you
think
want
it
me
got
to-
worse.
Yeah.
Serve as volunteers at city events and programs. Sorry. To participate and support community outreach activities by law. Sorry. It's a little too long.
Yeah, I know.
It is, and I think the city events, I think, was part of what hung us up last time, so probably dropping that constraint.
I have it fully as serve as volunteers at city events and programs to participate and support community outreach activities by fire, law enforcement, and homeless services in an effort to increase two-way dialogue between the commission and the public.
I don't think you need two-way. Two-way dialogue are redundant.
Okay.
So,
We're definitely looking for ways that we can trim it down.
Can you project it? We can just sort of cut out the parts that are unnecessary.
I thought you wanted two-way to be in the language.
But just that we go with dialogue rather than two-way? Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Right. I think that we're looking for one or the other, not both.
So just increase dialogue.
Yep.
Okay.
You're doing great, Lois. Thank you.
Is this the most efficient way to do this?
Do you have another recommendation?
I mean, to parse words and, I don't know,
We're going to spend 5 minutes doing it, and we're going to get it right, you know? This is a sincere effort on our part to get it right. So can you project it on so that we could work together on it? Thank you. It's a good recommendation. Thank you, Dan.
Are we planning on a January special meeting
We are.
to finalize this?
We are.
So I would support Commissioner Sell's recommendation that we don't do the wordsmithing
Okay.
in live real time, but we sort of delegate one or two of us to
Love it.
craft the language.
Love it.
And send it
Yeah.
to Lois a week ahead of the meeting when we schedule it.
Okay.
I volunteer to take that.
Two people can work together, okay, right? And they submit the email to you, or do they need to work independently? So we assign one person, the alternative is we assign one person to a task, and they submit it to you, and then we review it the next meeting,
why can't you do an ad hoc?
right? That's what we prefer?
We've done this in the past, right? So when we did the fire letter, it was Marlon and I working,
There we go. Thanks
and
for
we
reminding me. Yeah, I'm just-
provided through the agenda the draft letter and reviewed it as a commission the next meeting.
Yeah, as long as no more than the two work on each goal or priority, then that's fine.
Okay.
How about since I gave you the recommendation, I'll write it. I'll write it and work with Lois on it.
Well, I encourage you to get work with, if I'm going to throw them under the budget, you guys work together on it?
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah.
work together.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think it's well, and then that's sort of separate than the school shooting one. You want to work with me on that?
Sure. Is
Okay,
that okay, Al?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's, would love to do that.
Do you want to work on the thing for the San Diego Alliance, the recommendations about?
Mm-hmm.
Use the microphone, if you wouldn't mind.
I was just asking if we want to work on that separately or,
Yes, you and I can work on that
I
if you
can work
like.
on it.
So,
great.
all right, so you and I work on the smoke shops issue.
Workshop issue.
All right.
And
Commissioner Vaughn and I will work on the dialogue issue.
Community outreach.
Community
outreach,
outreach
yep.
issue, okay. And
I-
then you guys are doing school safety?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one that I thought of was, we already had it in our work plan for 2024, so we'll just roll it over.
right,
So I did want to just share with the commission feedback that we heard during the meeting with the Development Services folks last Monday. And they were sort of wanting to make us aware of the ongoing communication channels, recommending that we not flood people with too many different things, but try to use the existing channels to spread the messages efficiently, sort of not reinventing the wheel, I guess, was the kind of message there. And so I do think that there's some wisdom in not reinventing the wheel. So maybe we update last year's version to something that's a little bit more, leveraging existing channels, understand channels, optimize communication channels, something more in that general direction.
yeah, I mean, with that, I'm happy to kind of, I feel like we've just shotgunned a lot of people's ideas. And if there isn't anything else, we can sort of look at the existing one and we can kind of go through what's worth eliminating, keeping, or just re-imaging.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have several specific things on the homeless response, obviously. So do you want me to do those
If you want to
ad
just
hoc,
say,
or do we want to?
why don't you just say what you're thinking?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
we
so
can-
what I'm thinking is that we make 3 recommendations, so we want to try to implement those recommendations next
exactly.
year, right? And one of the ones about the homeless action plan sort of stands on its own, but the implementation of the Built for Zero methodology is a little bit more involved. One of the big factors that comes out of that, and one that I know appeals to the new mayor, is the systematic reporting of data and using the data for these continuous learning loops. And this is also part of the best practices that was communicated by staff last Monday. So I think there's general alignment there. But trying to embrace the data reporting part of that is going to fly well with City Council, I think. And one of the things that might be nice next year is to regularly get updates on the data and the stats on an anonymized, depersonalized, aggregated level, but have homeless services join the law enforcement and the fire for the regular public safety updates.
And so I, in my vision, I think what I talked about before, Commissioner Sales has the experience with the Behavior Health and Advisory Board. You bring to the table experience with the homeless community, however you want to define that. I have interest in participating in the Live Well San Diego. And so it's sort of saying leveraging our participation in these things, right? And conversations, make recommendations that can directly affect the community, like we can say homeless community, but just like specifically like that. I think that would be kind of language that I've seen work in other work plans that might serve us in the same way, is just how that might look, right?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I'm hearing, but I'm not fully internalizing. You want to put that into a single
Right.
goal, or I forget what we call them, but you know,
Yeah.
one of the work plan items as
Yep.
a single one, that would be general, right? I do think that it was a little bit tough when writing the 2024 response to pull out the homeless pieces that got woven here and there and everywhere else. And so to some extent, when it comes to November, December of
homeless-
2025, having
Specific.
goals and specific things that we can work towards and report to
See that.
also has some value. So I just
Yeah.
trying to balance those two ideas.
And so maybe the language is just leveraging, the commission's, participation in, with the homeless community and their conversations, make recommendations to the council on the homeless action plan, on like specific things that we're going to comment, like data that is available for everybody, like that you call out. So we can parse it later. It's just sort of like as I'm thinking, right? And I think that helps us avoid sort of the ad hoc and transparency, right? If we can be clear like what we're actually looking after and understanding that we can't do everything. It's a year, right? And
Right.
so what are we talking about? School shootings here? We're talking about better communication. We're talking about homelessness. I mean, that's a pretty good plate, you know what I mean? Not to minimize what else is going on there, but like we also can only do what we can do. So, and then was there a third thing that you wanted to make sure was there? That you were thinking about?
What was the third? The affordability. So there's an
Yeah.
idea of trying to work with the housing authority to see how we can best optimize the limited resources that are available there to help the most people. And so shared housing is a particularly promising strategy there. So those were the three with homelessness that aligned with our individual recommendations. We also had a recommendation earlier about the mental health fair.
Yes.
I think Molly was one of the big champions of that, and she's not on the commission anymore. So I think we probably need to make a decision whether that's something that we want to take on for next year. We had done one similarly for homeless services in the past, and so there would be also an opportunity to do one there if we wanted to. And so just for us to figure out whether that's something we want to bite off or not.
Right. Sure.
I think it would be really great for us to do Mental Health Awareness Month. I think there's nothing local. I know that in Live Well San Diego was also did a mental health fair in Oceanside a couple of years ago. I know they've been in Escondido, but, people here are pretty local. So I don't see that, I think it's a good idea to do it. Just to bring awareness, it doesn't have to be a huge event, but I think it should be something that, there's a proclamation from the mayor about it, and, we have resources from the county and whoever else wants to come and talk about, and it goes really hand in hand with the homeless issue, with the high incidence of behavioral health issues. So I feel we should go forward with it.
Yeah. So homeless fairs are sort of a thing. Homeless resource fairs are sort of a thing. They happen sort of countywide. They're most effective when they involve the homelessness court as on-site homeless courts. And so
Homeless court?
homeless court. So residents that are experiencing homelessness have access to a homeless court, which is a formal court, DAs, judges, the whole thing, but they'll come on site, set up in a parking lot, and be able to clear people's records if they're working appropriately with the appropriate case management and resources. And so it's sort of the push-pull part of getting people to accept services, help services. It's another tool. And so those events need to be lined up 3 to 6 months in advance. You're trying to work with significant agencies across the county. I put one of those together for Encinitas October of '22, and it's pretty tractable. We could do it if we wanted to. I don't know whether we would want to do it all as one event or 2 events. Homelessness Homelessness Awareness Month, I think, is October, and I think mental health is like May or June.
May is mental health awareness.
Yep.
So they are kind of nicely spaced apart.
Well, I think it goes along with our plan, and this should be in works now, I hope. I'm going to ask Lois about it, is getting Dr. Marcus to come and speak, and also speakers from the county, from behavioral health services on the youth, children and youth services, mental health services. And is that in any way happening? Because I know we have it says January or February, but we really do need to get on their schedule, get them scheduled.
So yes, we identified that in the 2024 work plan that we would invite them. However, we have not scheduled a January or February meeting. So as we do not have a meeting scheduled for those 2 months, I don't have a date to tell them.
We don't have a date at all in January and February?
Well, until the commission makes a motion to add a special meeting, because your meetings are quarterly, your next regular meeting is in March.
And just
All
to
right, well, how about if we then invite them for March? I feel like we need plenty of lead time to get people on the, reserved for that time.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a possibility? I mean, I don't think it makes 1 month, it's not going to make a difference one way or the other. But then that would segue into doing the Mental Health Awareness Month in May.
Yeah.
I think that would be a nice.
I'll save 5 minutes for Lois, because since that's a meeting set, we can kind of talk that out. I just, there are, from our recommendations, recommendation 3, recommendation 5. So 3 is the content from the San Diego County Sheriff's. Recommendation 5 is the mental health fair, and then 6, 7, 8. Those 5 things all are things that would, in some way, shape, or form also show up on our proposed draft work plan going forward. I mean, that's,
Also recommendation number 1.
Thank you.
Because it's
Oh, yeah, we're developing that. Sorry, didn't read that. Thank you so much. Yep. So those things are going to be there. So that's robust. We have the school shooting, which is new. And I think if we look back, so if we can start going through what the 2024 looked like, number 1, Commissioner Dominguez and Commissioner Vaughn, they're going to parse what that new language looks like, right? Because that's the community, what sponsored events, what city events, what we're going to do. Develop recommendations for communications, including launching a city coordinator, developing rail resources. Don't know if that really fits with anything that we're thinking, or do you think that's something that might come off the agenda, off the work plan? I'm kind of feeling like it's going to come off.
I would agree with that.
Yeah? Okay. And then the ad hoc committees, I
would like to try to avoid ad hoc committees if possible, given the blowback we got from the public last cycle. I think we should do that work as the commission, and if individual tasks or things fall down to 1 or 2 people within the Brown Act things, we do that, but we don't necessarily have to form standing ad hoc committees. We can delegate tasks to individual or pairs of commissioners.
And we certainly have things to do, right, that are listed here, right? So I'll just, unless we come up with it, maybe we'll just take some time between now and the January special meeting, which we're going to propose, to see if there's anything worth parsing out as a specific item for the work plan. But I think I'm just going to make the recommendation that we move beyond using the ad hocs. Number 8 kind of just comes over, because we're already doing the support, review, and make possible recommendation to the city homeless action plan. That's special projects. I guess we can suppose we could keep identify emerging opportunities. That's sort of a catch-all for things that doesn't make sense, but I don't know if number 9 stays on. So
I don't think it's this.
yeah, right. So 9 goes off. So I think loosely we've gotten into, we're going to redevelop number 1. We're going to eliminate number 2. We're going to eliminate the ad hoc committees. Special project number 9 will probably go away. And the identify emerging groups will stay. We will have something to do with the school shooting. We will,
So are things like number 5 staying, but just not being assigned to ad hoc committees, or what do we do with
no,
that?
that should absolutely stay, right? Because we want to have speakers. Sorry, I saw it was an ad hoc, and I just sort of
How about
went
if
over
you
that.
change the name instead of saying ad hoc committee, take that out, because all that's important work.
Mm-hmm.
So if you eliminate all that, where's all the work that we're planning and are doing already? So I don't understand. I mean, if you don't like the name ad hocs, I mean,
Right,
so you don't want to eliminate all that.
right,
So but I hear what you're saying.
right.
You don't
No,
like the ad hoc structure necessarily, or.
yeah,
So it's not
absolutely.
that we phrase it and label that section as something different.
Well, I think we're at liberty to invite speakers, that support any of the items that are in our work plan, right? So if we have a work plan where we're trying to work on school shooting, if we have a work plan, the item that we're talking about smoking, like, we don't need a specific work plan that authorizes us to invite speakers. Like, we can do that at any time.
Well, I think it's good to delineate it.
Okay.
I mean, we did all this work in the beginning, and we have all these things outlined.
Can you put that in the recommendation then for the work plan? Just have that it has like, i.e. invite speakers and in that?
Can I?
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that.
But you're working on it though, right? On one of the recommendations for the work plan? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't like the ad hoc, then you just need to eliminate that and say that part of the commission's work is all these things, but not eliminate them. Doesn't make sense to me.
But
Do we
but we're
want,
gonna
do we
be
want the
making rec-
column, do we want the column that says members involved? Is that something that's needed or appropriate in the 2025 work plan?
yes, we do need to know the members involved.
So why don't we?
I just, we're not going to make recommendations to the city council about speakers. But I don't know if I'm just parsing, I've been at it too long. So I'm willing to just table it and keep it for now, right? And so we'll just deal with it later. Okay? I like your recommendation that it stays.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. And then what I was kind of identifying just one last time, we are going to keep just the things that are recommendations from 2024, which is, as you identified, number 1, number 3, number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those are things that roll over into action items for the work plan in 2025 if they are accepted as recommendations by the city council.
What does number 3 mean?
That's what you guys are working on with the number one.
I think we're working on number one. What does item number 3 mean?
The city to enhance its efforts to cross-promote content produced by the San Diego County. Oh, you're right, it is something different. Commissioner Dominguez?
Yes.
The recommendation that the city enhance its efforts to cross-promote the content produced by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department via social media. You want to explain your thinking behind that recommendation?
Sorry, I'm asking about number 3.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
thought,
number 3.
which 3, I'm looking at number 3 from the recommendations in 2024. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. For the ad hoc committees, report strategies that promote cooperation, encouragement, and coordination between commission, fire department, sheriff's department, and other entities, public, private, who aren't working involved. That was Commissioner Andrade's point of concern and issue. And you see the recommendation that was made in October. Okay. So I'm going to, probably for the best clarification, ask Commissioner Andrade to, when she's here next. Does that work for you?
Yeah, maybe we can ask her to,
Yeah.
between meetings, provide appropriate language for review in January.
It's just sort of, what I'm hearing you is like, let's make sure we understand what's being asked before we decide to get rid of it. Is that what you're saying?
Or reproduce it. I
Yeah.
don't know what it means. So.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm ready to move the discussion. I think there's just 2 more things. You attended the holiday parade,
I did.
and as a member, is there anything that you'd like to report back from the experience?
Not really. I mean, it was the holiday parade. I didn't go over to the city table at all. So, yeah, there wasn't not much to report on that.
Okay. And then I did hear some ideas on speaker that we might want to have for the March meeting that we know about currently. What are you thinking?
No, we already had specified that we were going to ask Dr. Marcus, Brian Marcus, Assistant Superintendent, to come and speak about youth mental health, and then also get a representative from the Behavioral Health Services to also come to the same meeting.
Love it. So Lois, do we need Lois to get actionable on that, or do you need, nope?
Since Commissioner Sales modified it to be the March meeting, I can now ask them to come to the March meeting.
Great, thank you.
And would this be a agenda item for the March meeting then?
It'd be agenda.
Commissioner-initiated agenda item?
Yes.
Lois, are you agreeing with that? Would this be a commissioner-initiated agenda item for the March meeting?
No, they already, we already had talked about the speakers at a previous meeting in June and September. So we don't have to invite them again. It's just I couldn't invite them for a January or February meeting because we don't have a January or February meeting lined up.
I understood. I was asking really about the agenda for the March meeting. Do we need to have an agenda item, have this agendized for the March meeting, or how does that work?
So the March meeting is a regular commission meeting that will be used like this usual regular commission meeting where you have the regular agenda, the public safety reports, your work plan, unless there's any other.
And I think the question is just, what part of the agenda will the speaker be attending? When they show up, what part in the agenda are they participating
The
in?
special presentations.
Okay.
One
Sorry.
thing that would be really good is to advertise this within the school district and some communication from the city about this particular meeting. Is that in March. Is that a possibility, or how do we get the word out other than, I mean, it's pretty hard to find the agenda. You know, you have to go deep inside each board and commission and everything like that. So I'm wondering what would be the best way to communicate out to the community once we have it set up?
The city does have a constant contact list that any member of the community can subscribe to, and when those agendas are posted, they get an email blast to those. Again, it's readily available on the website. Yes, there are many, many boards and commissions that the city serves. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
It's probably part of our advertising campaigns to get people to participate in the constant contact emailing list, to let everybody know about that. So it's good. Any other loose items that are around here?
I'd like to make a motion that we have a special commission meeting in January, as early as is schedulable, to finalize the 2025 work plan proposal.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right.
And just a point of clarification before we do vote is the recommendations that Lois has put up on the 2025 draft work plan, and to also schedule a meeting as soon as possible in January to
What was
finalize
the first half of that?
all the recommendations that have been proposed up here on Lois's document, and then also to schedule a meeting in January as soon as possible to finalize the draft 2025 work plan.
Yeah, I think the process is the commissioners, as sort of identified, we're going to work on language.
Correct.
Submit that to Lois ahead of the meeting to agendize that meeting that'll be scheduled, and she'll work for a date uncertain in January for
Okay.
for scheduling.
Thank you for the clarification.
Does that work?
Yes. That motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Andrade and Commissioner Taylor absent.
Okay. I'm not quite sure if I did a great job of staying on the agenda, but I think we moved through informational items where you talked about the holiday. I don't believe there's any other commissioner member initiated agenda items coming up. We did future agenda items. Thank you very much for that. Just kind of formalizing it. No commission reports. Thank you, everybody, for your time and effort. Happy holidays, and look forward to seeing you in the new year. This meeting's adjourned.